Good morning. I now call to order the October 6, 2022 Board of Commissioners business meeting. Gary, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Chair Smith, thank you. First, our staff support today, Clerk to the Board, Tony Mayernick, County Counsel, Assistant County Counsel, Kathleen Rastetter. Commissioner Fisher is en route and will be here shortly. Roll call, Commissioner Shull.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Chair Smith.
Here. I will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gary, Commissioner Fisher is present on Zoom.
All right.
Who is that?
That was Commissioner Fisher. She's on Zoom, so thank you, Commissioner.
Good morning, everyone. We are holding this meeting in person and virtually. If you've joined us via Zoom for this meeting and are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. I would like to remind all participants, including staff, all elected officials, and members of the public that Robert Rules of Order will be enforced in this business meeting. We welcome your opinions and look forward to your polite participation. Gary, introduce the first item, please.
Thank you, Chair. You have two presentations this morning. The first presentation is recognition of 3 county programs and projects that have received 2022 National Association of Counties Awards. Ed Nieto from Public and Government Affairs will present. Go ahead, Ed.
Thank you, Gary. Good morning, Administrator Schmidt and Commissioners. I'm Ed Nieto with Public and Government Affairs. We are here to celebrate 3 county programs that earned, as Gary just said, 2022 Achievement Awards from the National Association of Counties. NACO serves more than 3 million county employees and more than 3,000 county governments, collaborating on ways to modernize government. Each year, NACO recognizes counties for programs that modernize county government and improve services. Programs are judged on innovation, creativity, measurable results, enhanced public participation, and increased public understanding of government programs. Clackamas County has now earned 10 NACO awards in just the last 2 years. The 7 awards Clackamas County won in 2021 are more than any other county that year. In addition to the innovation, quality, and success of these programs, the awards reflect the dedication and tireless work of the county employees who make them happen. County residents are the beneficiaries. This morning, we'll hear from representatives of these 3 award-winning programs. Afterwards, we'll respectfully request a group photo with the commissioners. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our first 2 presenters, Evan Polk, Sustainability and Solid Waste Program Manager, and Travis Wooten, Transportation Maintenance Supervisor. Evan and Travis are going to tell us about the Storm Debris Response and Voucher Program, which won in the category of Risk and Emergency Management.
Thank you, gentlemen. Please introduce yourselves.
I'm Travis Wooten. I am a supervisor down at the road department. So I'm talking about the debris removal portion. Our team in transportation rose to the challenge of one of the worst ice storms in 40 years. We prioritized the roads, the needs of the county for safety and just maneuverability. We worked around the clock for 8 straight consecutive days, removing ice, fallen trees, and any debris in the roads. And then we closed approximately 77 roads at the height of the storm, 77 miles of road. That's how bad the ice storm was. And then just some couple numbers, we removed 20,000 cubic yards of heavy wooded debris over 400 miles. Took 12 weeks. We had 4 crews removing all that debris. We worked with the utility companies to restore power to over 240,000 homes. And after we made the chips out of all the debris, we delivered it to 655 homes, saving the county about $65,000 of disposal costs.
I can't say enough what a magnificent effort that your group did in the debris removal, and it was anything short of astounding. And you should be awarded this. I'm just very thankful that you have the dedicated staff and personnel to do the work.
Yes, thank you.
Any other comments for this presentation right now? Go ahead, Evan.
Okay. Thanks, Chair. Good morning, and good morning, Commissioners. My brief comments are simply to note that after the 2021 ice storm, as Travis's division cleaned up roadways, our program, the Sustainability and Solid Waste Program, supported community members with a pilot program using electronic gift cards as vouchers to reduce barriers to cleanup. The vouchers allowed property owners to receive a credit to dispose of ice storm debris at one of several local yard debris composting facilities. We issued upwards of 1,000 vouchers. And I just want to thank Disaster Management for their support, technology services, especially the GIS and applications staff for standing up the online registration tool so quickly. Thank Finance, Treasurer, Council for supporting the procurement of the gift card tool, PGA for their web and outreach support. Also, the businesses, Canby Landscape Supply, McFarland's, S&H, Grimm's, and the county's transfer station for participating, and to the board for your support. With all that support, we were able to stand up a pretty neat little program in just a matter of days. Thanks.
Questions or comments from commissioners? Commissioner Savas.
Well, I'll keep Commissioner Scholl was first on the
Is he?
first round, so.
So, you know, I have a peripheral vision out of my eye, and the first one, because of these glasses. Go ahead, Commissioner Shaw.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you both, and please pass on behalf of the people of Clackamas County, a sincere thank you for your actions during that ice storm in restoring safety. That was really a hazardous few weeks or months, actually, for the cleanup. So that's very much appreciated. And like I said, thanks to all your personnel for getting up early in the morning, getting out there in hazardous conditions to do that job. It's much appreciated.
Thank you.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, also want to just acknowledge the great work that DTD did and so forth. I was out at the site out near Barton where a lot of material was taken and ground up there. It was great to see and meet with staff to see the great work and see all the trucks on the roads continually cleaning up after that. Took a long time. I wish I could make as much progress on my property as you have with the whole county, but I'm still working at it.
Oh, boy, no kidding, me too. Any other comments for this? I think it's time for a photo, correct?
Oh, there's two more awards, Commissioner.
My script says it's time for a photo, but go ahead and do what you need to do.
Thank you, gentlemen. Up next, we'll hear from Joe Merrick, Transportation Safety Program Manager, and Karen Burig, Long Range Planning Manager. The Courtney Avenue Complete Streets Health Impact Assessment Project won in the category of health.
Please introduce yourselves.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Karen Burig. I'm the Long Range Planning Manager.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name's Joseph Merrick. I'm the County Traffic Engineer and Traffic Safety Program Manager.
Hi. So we're here to speak on the Courtney Avenue Complete Street Health Impact Assessment Project. The Department of Transportation and Development and the Public Health Division have worked in partnership over the past few years to identify specific actions to support public health in various transportation projects. Health impact assessments, also known as HIAs, are a critical aspect of this work. The outcomes of the Courtney Avenue HIA included strategies that engineering staff can implement to maximize health benefits of complete street projects, identification of ways to use street improvements as an opportunity to improve issues often seen outside transportation planning, such as mental health issues, and recommendations of ways that we can more holistically incorporate health and equity into DTD planning and project development. Staff from Public Health, Abe Moland, and DTD, Scott Holscher, worked together to create a baseline of conditions and assessment and literature review. They facilitated and participated in 3 virtual walk audits with local stakeholders, and they developed and promoted a public survey which had 164 responses. The end product was a final report and an executive summary with specific recommendations that included items such as traffic calming strategies, physically separated bikeways and walkways, and the importance of wayfinding signs, along with many other recommendations. We will now use these recommendations and integrate them into the design of the project along Courtney Avenue which received $6 million in funding, in grant funding, to construct and improved pedestrian and bicycle ways and facilities between River Road and McLaughlin.
And so health impact assessments are a key tenet of the health and safety and all policies for the county, and really a critical tool for us to use to identify how we can do roadway improvements that actually prevent health harms and actually improve health outcomes and reduce health disparities. So the partnership with public health has really brought this important lens into the work that we do on the transportation side, and in terms of how we look at the transportation projects, allowing us to, again, improve public health and the road work that we do every day. And they're also in complete alignment with the county's strategic priorities, and also in strong alignment with the Safe Systems approach, which is part of our national strategy on eliminating fatal and serious injury crashes. And the tenets of the Safe Systems approach include safe roads, safe road users, safe vehicles, safe speeds, and post-crash care. So we're very excited to be doing our small part to help eliminate fatal and serious injury crashes, as well as making our communities healthier. Thank you.
Any questions or comments for the presenters? I think oftentimes we don't link good public health to transportation, and you are obviously successful in doing this. Commissioner Savas.
I just want to say congratulations on the award, but I am curious, when does the project start?
So the project is at its initial phases, and that's really we're working out the agreements related to the money. And so I'm imagining there's a lot of design work that's going to start in the beginning, and so we'll see some work in the next few years.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. And what's next?
Up next, our final presenter is Jeff Stallard, who just last week was selected as the new capital program manager for Clackamas Water Environment Services. The West Solids Handling Capacity Improvements Project won in the category of County Resiliency, Infrastructure, Energy, and Sustainability.
Please introduce yourself.
Sure. My name's Jeff Stallard, and as Ed mentioned, I just on Monday started as the new capital program manager for Water Environment Services. So I've been there for almost 6 years, so kind of got a promotion, so I'm very excited.
Excellent.
And day one at West, I started on the project I'm going to talk about, and I've really seen it from design all the way through construction, so pretty passionate about this particular project. The project we won the award for was the Solids Handling Improvements Project. It was a project that included a new cogeneration engine. So during solids digestion, we create it's an anaerobic process that creates methane. So then we capture that methane, we treat it to clean it up so we can burn it. Then we burn it in our cogen engine. It's a 600 kilowatt engine, so it makes a large amount of power. It offsets roughly about half the power demand of our treatment facility down there, saving around $300,000 a year in electrical and an additional $100,000 in heating. So in addition to the electric the engine produces, it makes a lot of heat. All of our processes need heat, or not all of them, but our digestion process needs heat and our buildings need heat. So we capture that heat and we use it to heat our buildings, heat our processes, and keep things running smoothly down there. As I mentioned, the cogen engine will produce around 4,300 megawatts of power every year annually. And in addition to this award, we received an award for this project from the Pacific Clean Water Association, PNCWA, which was also exciting. And right now we are giving a webinar to the EPA on this project as well, talking about our sustainability and other persons. So very, very exciting project for us. We received over $2 million in grant funding from the Energy Trust of Oregon and PGE's Renewable Development Fund. So that really made the payback on the project, because it was about a $5 million investment, to roughly 7 years, and everything beyond that will be savings to the county. So I just want to thank the board for their ongoing support of Wes's projects. We have a lot of work coming, and hopefully we can continue to win exciting awards.
This is just really fascinating. How many other jurisdictions in Oregon are doing anything similar to this?
I think so, at least regionally here. I know Clean Water Services has a cogen engine, BES has a cogen engine, Gresham. So I think it's something that's really starting to take hold in the industry. It adds a whole process to our facility, right? Because now we have to treat the gas, and it's things that our operators and maintenance folks haven't necessarily had to deal with. And so we're definitely increasing their workload in this, but it's a really good payback. And otherwise, the gas would be flared, similar to what you see at landfills or something. We collect that gas and flare it, and so this is really capturing that renewable energy and utilizing it at our facilities.
I think it's interesting, turning garbage into electricity, basically.
Yep.
Yes, Commissioner Savas.
I thought there was a little bit of a cogen project there prior to the solids expansion. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. There was a 200 kilowatt engine that was put in when the plant was built in the 80s. Air emissions and other things were a little less controlled at that point, and I think they made more robust, and so it was a less efficient engine. But yeah, we did. We were making more gas than that engine was able to burn, and this one is sized. We'll be gas limited for the first bit, but then once we hit 2030, then we'll be generator limited, and we'll look to maybe add another engine at our next solids improvement project.
Well, great. Well, congratulations on that. And I also want to share that there's also opportunities. Wes has done this, and so has Oak Lodge Water Services on their plant, and that is using the existing generation facility in times of emergency for backup power and so forth. So there's a partnership with PGE to capture that. So there's a whole bunch of wins here. So congratulations.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, I just want to pass on a thank you from the people of the county for all the work that Wes does. You have probably the largest industrial infrastructure in the county in your building, all the pipes and other pieces of the puzzle that make up the Wes system. And I was down there recently, and I was very impressed with the efficiency, the cleanliness, and the forward thinking of the management there at Wes to produce and operate a very efficient facility. That efficiency is reflected in the cost, and that's passed on to savings to the customer. It's most appreciated. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that.
Yes, thank you very much. What's next?
Thanks to all the presenters, and congratulations again on these well-deserved awards. Commissioners, at this time, I'd respectfully once again request a group photo with the award winners, if that's possible.
Okay, commissioners, let's come. Do we want to be on this side of the chairs or the other side?
Going to do those one at a time? Group at a time? So, Jeff, you can go first.
Okay. We're going to do with each individual group. Jeff first. Is Greg here? Okay.
And are we going to do one at a time? Okay. Is that the first group? All right, everybody, smile. Should have a good one there. Thank you.
You betcha.
Would you like us between you?
All right, everybody, you guys ready? Here we go.
Awards are such a nice thing. Acknowledgement of all the work, innovation, right?
All right, here we go. Good. Thank you. One big photo of everyone? Everybody in this one. No, you're back in.
Get close. Okay, we're gonna have to squeeze together because there's more of us.
Super tall. I can be in front of
Yeah, if one person could go over there we go. All right.
Well, that was fun. Gary, what's next?
Thank you, Chair. Next is the second presentation, proclamation of October 2022 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Clackamas County. Our presenters today are Aaron Hinkleman, the Director of the Family Justice Center and from the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office, and Sarah Van Dyke from our Health, Housing, and Human Services Department. Go ahead, please.
Morning.
Please introduce yourselves.
Erin Hinkleman, Clackamas County Sheriff's Office, Director for a Safe Place Family Justice Center.
I'm Sarah Van Dyke. I'm the Domestic Violence Systems Coordinator in Clackamas County.
Go ahead.
Perfect. Domestic Violence Awareness Month evolved from the Day of Unity in October 1981. The intent was to connect advocates across the nation who are working to end violence against women and their children. The Day of Unity soon became an entire week devoted to a range of activities conducted at the local, state, and national levels. The activities conducted were as varied and diverse as the program sponsors, but had common themes: mourning those who have died because of domestic violence, celebrating those who have survived, and connecting those to who work to end violence. I'll turn it over to Sarah to talk about our local events.
On Tuesday, you asked about some of the awareness activities that are going on, and so we did submit a full list of the activities that are going on, so you have access to that, but we wanted to highlight one for you. October 20th is Wear Purple. It's called Purple Thursday, and it's a national day of action during Domestic Violence Awareness Month to raise awareness about domestic violence, and is an easy way for people to show their support and commitment to promoting healthy relationships. Wear purple, be a voice, and start a conversation about domestic violence. And we also brought a little swag for you if you're interested. We have these fancy purple bracelets that also you can fling them.
Okay.
Yeah, and some purple stickers to wear as well.
You said wear purple on every Thursday?
October 20th.
October 20th.
20th. Sorry, sometimes I don't hear.
Yeah.
Good. All right.
Perfect, thank you. So domestic violence is a pervasive, life-threatening crime that impacts our community at every level, from individual families to public health to the local economy. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience domestic violence from an intimate partner in their lifetime. Domestic violence affects all of us, and all of us must be a part of the solution. We believe it's vital during the month of October to help raise awareness about domestic violence and make it clear it's a public matter. The more information our community has about healthy and unhealthy relationships, the better off we will be at keeping people safe, not just this month, but every month. Just want to take a moment to acknowledge our partners in the room who make this work possible every day, and thank you all for your time and support that you've provided to survivors over the years. At this time, we'd like to respectfully request the resolution for Domestic Violence Awareness Month be read into the record.
And who's going to read that?
I guess that's us.
Okay, go ahead and
Ready?
read that into the record. And let's acknowledge your partners by name when you have an opportunity.
Sure, we can do that now.
Yes.
So
Please stand when they introduced.
Sure. First, we have Under Sheriff Copenhaver with Clackamas County Sheriff's Office.
Thank you.
We have Julie Strand with Clackamas County Sheriff's Office that works at the FJC up front as office support. We have Catherine Koch, who is our Clackamas Women's Services Director, Program Director. Of course, I forgot the long title, apologies. And we have Josie Greer, also with Clackamas Women's Services, who is with our development. And then in the back, in the next row, we have John Wentworth, who is our Clackamas County District Attorney. And next to John is Christy Belmore, who is the supervisor with the Clackamas County District Attorney's Office Victims Assistance Program. It's a true test. Yes.
Thank you for this. Go ahead,
Okay.
please.
Thank you.
Whereas domestic violence is a serious crime in Clackamas County that affects people of all races, ages, gender, and income levels, and whereas family is the foundation of a safe and healthy community, and it is the goal of Clackamas County for our communities to be safe.
And whereas more than 1 in 4 women will experience physical violence, rape, and/or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime, and whereas 32.5% of families involved with the Department of Human Services Child Welfare Department had domestic violence as a component of their case in 2021.
And whereas 1,054 victims of domestic violence applied for a protection order in Clackamas County in 2021, and whereas there was 2,031 visits to a Safe Place Family Justice Center in 2020 and 2021, from people seeking assistance and safety from violence when access to in-person services were limited due to the pandemic. And whereas victims should have help to find the compassion, comfort, and healing they need, and abusers should be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law.
And whereas only a coordinated community effort will put a stop to this serious crime, and whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month provides an excellent opportunity for people to learn more about preventing domestic violence and to show support for the numerous organizations and individuals who provide critical advocacy, services, and assistance to victims.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I'll make a comment.
Yes,
I just want to say I really appreciate both the sheriff's office and the district attorney's office for years of commitment to this effort, and overwhelmed, just frankly, with how much effort you have all put in this, and we've obviously supported that. But just thank you so much. It's a very serious thing, and as I mentioned on Tuesday, concerns about other people in the household, whether it's children, elders, and so forth, that also experience that. So there's a lot of impacts, and unfortunately, those don't have good outcomes all the time. But I do appreciate your work, and hopefully we can continue to get to zero deaths in the state of Oregon, Clackamas County, and everywhere when it comes to domestic violence. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, and it's important to proclaim these months and this awareness because it really takes all of us together understanding the issue so that we can move the dial to make improvements in our systems, our service delivery processes, and our policies. And just really thankful for that. And Chair Smith, I see Commissioner, I was going to go ahead and make a motion, but I see that Commissioner Schrader is still
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Commissioner Schrader, you're up.
Well, I want to thank you for all you do. This is an issue very near and dear to my heart. As many of you know, my daughter's a prosecutor in Boston, and she does most of the domestic violence cases. So I hear firsthand how those cases go and how difficult it is to really get people to move through the system, confront their perpetrator, and actually kind of turn towards healing and wholeness after all of this. And I was here when Clackamas Women's Services was just a kind of tiny organization, and you have grown the capacity with a Family Justice Center in a very phenomenal way, and I believe are one of the powerhouse nonprofits that we have in our county today because of all the work you've done.
Yes, we had a session this week and discussed this more at length, and people can see that online, also with the accompanying paperwork, where you have cited many statistics that are frankly quite alarming in this day and age, in the year 2022. We should be much further along on this, but this nation and our state and county have experienced a situation in the pandemic where the domestic violence may have exasperated because people didn't get a chance to get out, and unfortunately, the family unit suffered a lot, and we're all very mindful of that. And for one, I can't wait to sign this proclamation. Commissioner Fisher, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Smith. I move we proclaim October 2022 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Second.
Commissioner Fisher has moved that we approve the proclamation of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and Commissioner Savas has seconded that motion. Any further discussions? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Fisher.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much for your work, and everybody in attendance and everybody who is not in attendance today. Go forth. Thank you. Gary, what's next?
Next is the consent agenda. Tony, would you please read the consent agenda?
Elected officials, item 1, approval of previous business meeting minutes for the Board of County Commissioners. Item 2, approval of an amendment extending the duration and increasing funding of the intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation for services related to the Motor Carrier Safety Assistance Program. Amendment value is $25,000 for 1 year. Agreement value is now $50,000 for 2 years. Amendment funding is through federal funds and a $1,250 match from budgeted county general funds for the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. Item 3, approval of a grant agreement and grant application lifecycle form for the Distracted Driving Overtime Enforcement Campaign grant with Oregon Impact. Grant value is $22,500 for 1 year. Funding is through the National Highways Traffic Safety Administration with a $4,500 match from budgeted county general funds for the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. Item 4, approval of a grant agreement and grant application lifecycle form for the Driving Under the Influence of Intoxicants Overtime High Visibility Enforcement Grant with Oregon Impact. Grant value is $20,000 for 1 year. Funding is through the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration with a $4,000 match from budgeted county general funds for the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. Item 5, approval of a grant agreement and grant application lifecycle form for the Pedestrian Safety Enforcement Overtime Grant with Oregon Impact. Grant value is $5,000 for 1 year. Funding is through the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration with a $1,000 match from budgeted county general funds for the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. Item 6, approval of a grant agreement and grant application lifecycle form for the Speed Overtime Enforcement Grant with Oregon Impact. Grant value is $10,000 for 1 year. Funding is through the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration with a $2,000 match from budgeted county general funds for the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. Item 7, approval of a grant agreement and grant application lifecycle form for the Safety Belt Overtime Enforcement Grant with the Oregon Department of Transportation. Grant value is $10,000 for 1 year. Funding is through the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration with a $2,500 match from budgeted county general funds for the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. Item 8, approval of Amendment 2, increasing funding and extending duration of the Improving People's Access to Community-Based Treatment, Supports, and Services Grant Program with the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission. Amendment value is $208,412.48 for 2 years. Total grant value is increased to $708,400 for 4 years. Funding is through the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission, and no county general funds are involved for the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office. Finance, item 1, approval of a goods and services contract with TVW Incorporated for janitorial services at various county facilities. Contract value is $9,441,470.16 over 5 years. Funding is through budgeted county general funds. Juvenile, item 1, approval of a contract with Volunteers of America of Oregon Incorporated to provide community monitoring services. Contract not to exceed $327,563 for 1 year. Funding is through budgeted county general funds. Transportation and Development, item 1, approval of intergovernmental agreement with Southern Oregon University Market Research Institute for a business-friendly environment study. Total value is $13,750. Funding is through lottery dollars allocated for the Office of Economic Development Operations. No county general funds are involved. Health, Housing, and Human Services, item 1, approval of a grant agreement with the U.S. Department of Labor for Homeless Veterans Reintegration Program grant to expand and enhance Clackamas County's Veterans Workforce Program. Initial grant value is $197,469 to be renewed annually for a total grant value of $851,055 over 3 years. Funding is through the U.S. Department of Labor. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval to accept a grant award from the U.S. Health Resources and Services Administration for school-based health center expansion at Clackamas High School and Adrian C. Nelson High School. Initial grant value is $200,000 to be renewed annually for a total grant value of $400,000 over 2 years. Funding is through the U.S. Health Resources and Services Administration. No county general funds are involved. Item 3, approval of a letter of agreement with Care Oregon Incorporated for expansion of intake services at Clackamas Health Centers. Agreement value is $157,000 for 1 year. Funding is through Care Oregon Incorporated. No county general funds are involved. Item 4 has been pulled at the request of the county administrator. Item 5, approval of a federal subrecipient agreement with Outside In for Hispanic Latinx outreach and engagement in the school-based health center at Milwaukee High School. Total value is $100,185 for 15 months. Funding is through state ARPA funds. No county general funds are involved. Madam Chair, that concludes the list.
Thank you, Tony. Does any commissioner wish to pull any item off of this consent agenda? Any comments up to now? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Schrader has moved for approval of the consent agenda, and Commissioner Savas has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. I will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as a Water Environment Services Board.
This is the consent agenda for Water Environment Services. Tony, would you please read the consent agenda?
Water Environment Services consent agenda has one item, approval of a construction contract with Colton Homes Incorporated for the Fishers Forest Park Collection System Rehab Project. Contract value is $664,211. Funding is through Water Environment Services operating funds. No county general funds are involved.
Thank you. Does any commissioner wish to remove an item off of this agenda? Seeing none, can I have a motion?
I move we approve the West consent agenda.
Seconded.
Commissioner Schrader has moved for approval of the Water Environment Services consent agenda, and Commissioner Scholl has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please call the poll.
Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
Aye.
Commissioner Schull,
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. I will now adjourn as a Water Environment Services Board and reconvene as a Board of County Commissioners. Up next is public communication. This portion of the agenda shall be limited to items of county business which are properly the object of board consideration and should be nonpartisan nature, as the BCC is a nonpartisan governing body under Oregon Revised Statutes and County Code. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. Comments shall be respectful and courteous to all. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public comment at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as part of the public record. However, we will not be reading them at the business meeting due to time constraints. I will now open the meeting for public testimony. I will take in-person testimony first. So far, I have 2 cards. Anybody else wishing to testify can just put out a green card. First up, Les Poole. Please come forward, state your name, your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Good morning. It's October. It's hard to believe.
I know.
Time's flying. We have an election coming.
Introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, we have an election coming. Wow. Les Poole. I live here in the county. Been here for 30 years. I want to talk a little bit about transportation and a very hot topic that I've regularly talk about, and that is tolling. HB 2017, which was a huge transportation bill approved by the legislature in 2017, included a variety of things. There was over $5 billion involved in that. And during my testimony, I expressed some distrust in ODOT, which they've continued to nurture. They've been nurturing my distrust, and more importantly, they're nurturing the distrust of the public. And I think they're nurturing, and that's kind of a sad word for it, a distrust of the county of ODOT. I really think that's going on here. The bill authorized a study of traffic congestion relief. And buried in that bill was, of course, an authorization for a test case for tolling us, charging drivers, whether you're a business person or mom with the kids, whoever you are, to drive on federal highways that already exist. And the money would go into what I call a bottomless pit. It wouldn't go back necessarily into the highways, it would go into a pit. One of my friends calls it the pit of despair. So that bill that authorized the study has now, we've reached a point where they're looking at a 2-year test case, And at the end of 2 years, ODOT hopes to get approval from the Federal Transportation Administration to permanently toll us, charge us to use existing lanes, charge us more during peak traffic times. This is an issue that the public knew virtually nothing about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. I know Commissioner Savas and myself and others were heavily involved in it, but the truth be known, the general public was in the dark, and they're no longer in the dark. I've got a very simple question. It's not a trick question, and hopefully I'll get an answer. We'll hear from each of the commissioners a reply before the end of the meeting. The questions are simple. Do you support a public vote on ODOT's tolling plan? And would you be willing to sign an initiative petition to require a vote? It's a real basic question that I think is worthy of a reply. And on behalf of the citizens, I'd love to hear some answers before the meeting's
There's
over.
opportunity during commissioner communication if a commissioner wishes to opine.
Perfect.
That will be, and I hope you can stay for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Les. Up next, Rick Dodge. Please come state your name, your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Rick Dodge, Clackamas County, Milwaukee, Oregon. Now, you know what I'm going to talk about today, because I was here last week. I would like to know how much feedback since last week that you've gotten from the public, because I put in a bunch of time talking to neighbors again, and it's the same story. A lot of uptight people. I mean, it got to the point I said, don't shoot the messenger here, for crying out loud, and I mean it. About the, for the record here, I guess we're talking about, you know, the consideration of buying the 2 hotels in a residential neighborhood. Now, the one across the freeway is you know, was brought up, and the same. Everybody, we all go across that 212 bridge, or to go to Fred Meyer and so on and so forth. And for years, we've seen the people who are camped out over there walking across the bridge every day. And because I go through that or over that pass, they must have the longest light on earth, red light. You have to wait there to get onto the. So it gives you lots of time to see what's going on. The point is that even with the Clackamas End being in more of a commercial area, the people are saying that those people are walking over across that bridge to where the action is, and the action for them is in our neighborhood, literally. And I had the distinct opportunity to run into a person who was on his bike going through people's recycling, and it was really, really, really close to where I'm at. And I asked him, I said, "Are you all right?" And I knew he was okay. "Well, I'm having somebody come get me right now." I said, "Really? Well, you got a flat tire on your bike?" And anyway, he was, there was a guy up the street hollering at him, you know, "Don't you ever come back." But the bottom line here is that it's a complicated problem. And I'm wondering how much feedback has come back. And the other thing is that in trying to study this a little bit more, you know, like micro villages and stuff like that, I'm guessing maybe a little cheaper, less expensive, and a little easier to control. I don't know. It's a complicated problem. Anyway, again, I'm very curious to see if there was any feedback. Thanks.
Well, Rick, thank you, and thank you for bringing this issue forward. So I'm going to, you can't see this on my phone, but this is all the questions and responses that we got from staff, and there's about 63. comments from when the staff went out into the neighborhoods in this area and asked them certain questions about this. And the question that is on my mind is, how do you think that we should deal with the homeless? And we know they're out there, okay? And so, like I said last week, there's a large cry for government to do something. Okay, and it's on you. How would you help us solve this problem? And I'm not pointing my finger at you, but we have monies coming through from 3 different sources, and there's a lot of money. We also should acknowledge that not all people who are homeless will want to come in, but we have some exciting, I think, situations on our hands. If we are able to offer a place for them to go, then we can go out and actively engage these people to come in. And that's a Boise decision, a federal court decision. So I find that really exciting. And in your neighborhood over there across the freeway from, I think, where you live, there's a railroad track, and they're camping out the railroad track, and they're shooting up, and they're doing whatever they can. Is that good for us to allow them to be there? You know, that's questions that in our education process that we can continue. Now, this is just this is our study of the county staff going out. Does Gary or Tony know how many emails have come in since this began on this? Can you answer that?
Yes, I can. So quickly, 70 residents and businesses had door knocking, personally went to those homes. We have a phone line open, of which 13 people have left voicemails with comments. We have an email address, of which 48 people have submitted email responses. And then an email was sent to 11,500 people who live in that area for their feedback.
Okay, so there you go. We had 13 calls come in and 48 emails, and then we went out to 73 doors. And 14,000 emails have gone out. That's your answer.
Great.
Also, you need to know, next Monday, the North Clackamas County Chamber is having an online forum where there's going to be 5 county folks speaking on that. Myself, the district attorney, a representative from the sheriff's office, and 2 of our housing specialists in the county will be answering questions of the business community who are concerned about that next Monday. The week after that, the same group will be making the same presentation, the Clackamas County Business Association. So we will be taking questions. We will be trying to answer their questions the best we can and educate the process. I think the biggest effort we can make is trying to educate the public and get their concerns coming in, which we have a pretty good handle on what we think they are. I mean, I have 63 comments here on an email on the study that went out, and they're really good comments. They're very good comments, and so we need to address those. This is not a done deal. It's not a done deal, but we'll make decisions going forward.
Well, notwithstanding the Boise incident.
You understand that court decision?
Yeah, I do, and you understand where a lot of us are coming from here, the public, and that is, please enforce the rule of law to eliminate some of this. But I see that twinkling in your eye, and I understand there's 2 sides to all that. But at the same time, we have seen no improvement throughout the Tri-County area, and for all this money and talking points going out, nothing being solving the problem. But
I don't want to put my county council on the spot for this, but if you were to attend these next 2 forums, there will be Bill Stewart, ADA, Assistant District Attorney, and he will talk about the enforcement of the rule of law and the efforts that are being done from a law enforcement perspective. And I think that you will find that we are making some headway on that. So please tune in. I am not a legal scholar. I cannot comment on the enforcement of the rule of law, but I tend to agree with you. But
Well-
you have to understand, we have a court system in the United States, right? Yes. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was not here last Thursday for this discussion that some of you partook in. I will just share the experience that we had with the Veterans Village before we even opened that. And that was, I would say that it was unanimous that every neighboring property, our business was, against it. But we modeled it, and myself, Commissioner Schrader, other commissioners from other counties, we learned from other models, and we did a lot of research prior to that, and we gave our promises to or assurances, I guess, assurances to the local community near the Veterans Village that we would be all on top of it, and if it was a failure, that we'd just pull out of it, and it was a pilot, and it was. So we're not doing the same quite thing here, but close. And the effort is really to do a comprehensive public outreach, and hopefully, my goal, I'm only one vote here, but my goal is to model it similar to the Veterans Village in the way that it's operated, in the way that it's maintained, in the sense that there are no peripheral issues with the community and neighborhood. One belief I hold personal is that I don't believe it should be adjacent. I'm using the word adjacent, directly adjacent to a neighborhood. And so one of these is, I know where it's at. One of these is adjacent to a neighborhood, and we didn't have a unanimous support for that particular choice, but we're looking into it. The other thing I'll say that you mentioned is that we haven't seen any improvement in the Tri-County area. I think those were essentially your words. And I would say that I live near McLaughlin Boulevard, near the Oak Grove Fred Meyer, and I have seen an improvement. And I do know that the model that we've employed overall to address some of the needs out there and some of the responses to house people, I have seen an improvement. And I wouldn't be up here saying it if I didn't. I would say that the situations and challenges in my area are worse than they are in your neighborhood in the area, and I know that because I've gone door to door in that area as well over time, and I go through there every day, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And that overpass, 212, that's not as safe for pedestrians, but that hasn't really stopped vandalism. Unfortunately, people are still vandalizing, and so there are challenges in that neighborhood. Right near Johnson City, down Roots Road on one hand and down Clackamas Drive on the other, Johnson being the connector. I know the area pretty well. So, but the problem's everywhere. The problem you're experiencing now, that we're experiencing now, and ideally, that if there's a facility somewhere that some of those people that are, let's say today, homeless, not all homeless people are vandals, but let's say those that are, if they are in a better place, that should relieve the pressure on the neighborhoods. And ideally, that's what we're striving for, and I think that's what I've experienced a little bit. There's still a lot of work to be done, but on McLaughlin, we've seen an improvement, but there's still a lot of more work to do. And I've in a number of meetings and conversations with people in the area. We live in the same area, Rick, I think. The North Clackamas, Oak Grove, Jennings Lodge, Webster area, so I understand the challenge. But it's our goal, ideally, to do this as smart as we can so there are no neighborhood impacts. And since we opened the Veterans Village, we have not had any negative impacts. As a matter of fact, even some of the neighboring businesses have ended up hiring some of the folks that were housed there. So it's been a good thing, but it took a lot of careful management. And I'm hoping that the board and our staff will adhere to some principles and successes. As I was raised, we don't need to make, my grandmother told me, we can learn from other people's mistakes. We don't need to make the same mistakes and relearn them. We can learn from others. So that's been my goal. And again, model it after other successes and learn from those mistakes that are being made. We don't want what's happening in Portland here. We certainly don't want those policies that are failing there here. So that's my personal opinion and my approach.
Where is the Veterans Village?
The Veterans Village is off of Jennifer Avenue and 115th.
Okay.
It's fenced, very secluded. You wouldn't even know it was there.
Now, that brings up a good point, because isn't that a better option?
What do you mean?
I mean, it's fenced, number one.
Mhm.
I mean, you're not going to fence these hotels.
Why not?
Well,
I mean, I don't know. I don't know whether we are or not, Rick, but
I mean, where are the people going to
we're
go?
also talking the
Of course, they gotta-
availability of land.
Yeah.
Okay? Land is a premium in the county. We have to, we can't put it out on somebody's farm that's 10 miles away. And that doesn't make sense logistically because the homeless are in certain areas, okay? Need to be able to have transportation routes. We need to be able to offer medical services. Need to be able to have access to buy groceries. So,
Okay.
yeah, so thank you very much.
Tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, no, it's a tough one, believe me.
Oh, it is. And like Commissioner Savage just said, he and I are closer to this than anybody in the room probably. Well, Les is too.
Well, what I'm going to say about that, I do take a little bit of exception to that because you two live in urban areas. And we have two other commissioners that live in urban areas. Then you have Commissioner Scholl and I who live in rural areas.
Mhm.
Now, the homeless looks a lot different in the rural areas than it does in your areas, and one shoe size doesn't fit all. We have a fire chief in the back shaking his head yes.
Mhm.
In my area and in Mark's area, they're camped out in the woods.
Oh,
And so, sir, and they're walking in on the county roads where there's no shoulders, or they have bicycles and they're pushing bicycles and picking up stuff out of the ditch, and you have to be very careful. So, you know, one shoe doesn't fit all size. We only have a perspective of what we see and we know, and that perspective isn't always the same across the county. But we're only trying to do what we can.
I understand. I stand corrected.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much for coming and voicing your opinion, Rick.
Hey, thank you so much.
Take care.
Have a good day.
You bet. I don't have any more cards for in person. Tony, do you have anybody online?
I do not have anyone registered to speak. If you would like to provide public comment, please use the raise hand feature at this time. Chair Smith, I do not have any hands raised.
Thank you, Tony.
Apologies, Chair Smith, I have one hand raised.
Oh, it's the last minute. Okay, go ahead.
Thelma Hagenmiller, please state your name and area of residence. You will have 3 minutes.
Thank you all. I wasn't intending to speak today, but my name is Thelma Hagenmiller. I do live in the Oak Grove area of unincorporated Clackamas County. And the conversation you're just having with Rick prompted some thoughts that I've had on this subject for a long, long time. And that is that and the way the laws are going and reading is that the lack of a facility that provides care and treatment and stuff like that is basically what we need instead of just housing. And we're looking at basically just housing with this motel situation. So I would like to see these, and this starts up at the state, I know that the money be directed to a care facility more than just housing, and they need to change their direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Thelma. We've had internal conversations about this, and I do agree with you. And I think maybe a miscommunication has gone out. This just isn't housing. In order for people to have housing, we need to get them off the streets so they can have treatment and supervision. We won't be able to treat or supervise somebody who's living on a tent who can pick up and move from place to place. So I think that's paramount. With the Veterans Village, they have to sign a contract. And how long is that contract? Maybe 6 months, maybe my commissioners know. They have to sign a contract that certain benchmarks will be met because this is transitional. Transitional means they don't stay there forever. And I would agree wholeheartedly with Thelma Hagenmiller's statement on that, and that's something that I think that this board, we need to watch our messaging on this. Now, other jurisdictions are perfectly fine with the message of housing first. We'll worry about the other later. I think in Clackamas County, we need to up our game and maybe improve upon that business model. and consider treatment and supervision. And then we can, but I do understand they need to be in a place in order to have that. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, this can be a very, very long, and of course, we're not going to do that today, but a very long discussion, and there's certainly a lot of examples. And what I think is encouraging out of all of this is that if you look in the Portland metro region, frankly, throughout the state, but especially the Portland metro region, you can certainly see examples where it's gone horribly wrong. And they're nearby. They're not very far away. And you can see the policies that are working, and you can see the policies that are failing. I think that that's a huge advantage for us going forward, that we don't emulate the policies and the procedures and some of the models that are failing and causing the problems, and look for and find the models that are working. And again, I kind of said it earlier, I'm not repeating myself in the very same words, but the point is that I think we can do this to some degree, but the aspect of how we go about it, where the resources are, and are they reliable enough? Can we treat the people? Because what Portland's learning right now is that more than half of the people they're trying to help don't want to go into an apartment, a home, a hotel room. They don't want the help. They want to stay on the street for whatever reason. And those reasons are probably, whether it's drug, alcohol, mental health, or all the above, they need the help. And we need to provide the treatment centers and the people and the staff to provide that treatment in order to be successful. They're not going to be successful. We're not going to be successful unless we reconfigure how we're approaching this problem. And it has worked in other states and other areas. And again, we need to emulate successes and not emulate failures.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, this is great conversation. I love it when we have a light agenda and we can opine on these important issues. Thank you, Rick, as always, for bringing these issues to light. I do want to talk about, we are in a democracy, we're in a free society. People have self-determination. People get to make choices about their self-determination. Within that, there is a law that says that we cannot move people from public right-of-ways or spaces unless there is an option that is feasible for them to go to. And this has been litigated. There's been lawsuits around the country. And there is a whole continuum of support that needs to be part of that. So while I totally respect my commissioners and their perspectives and their views, I think the language that we use is important. And I would say that access to services that people need is absolutely critical. We can't, unless someone is committed a crime and is in the legal system, in the criminal justice system, we can't force supervision upon them or any direct requirements. But Chair Smith is correct. The people that are part of our Veterans Village, they're part of a community that develop their contract amongst themselves. They are a community that is self-determined. They decide what their rules are, and everyone has to adhere to that. And they have really great success. It's very rare that someone needs to leave the Veterans Village. But what I want to say is it's more than providing hotel, motel, such shelter. We need a whole continuum of options for people that might include camping in a designated area, might include having places to park safely if people are in a vehicle, need to include hotel, motel, and maybe safe rest villages or tiny homes like you were talking about, Rick, the more modular types of settings. I am very pleased that finally, Portland is now looking at some of their warehouse space that's just empty and looking at how can we convert that into cubicles. Because what we know is that when Commissioner Savas says that people in Portland that are on the streets don't want help, you know what they don't want? They don't want the option that is available to them, which is congregate shelter where they can't bring their belongings, they have to leave in the daytime, and people don't feel safe. There's been physical violence, sexual assaults in those settings. We know that model of congregate shelter doesn't work. And I'm proud of Clackamas County in that we are looking at doing things differently, not the way that it's been traditionally done. And we are looking at doing it in a more Clackamas County-centric way. But really, how do you move the dial? I mean, these situations are tough. You build it by outreach workers connecting with individuals and saying, what do you need to make your life whole and healthy? What do you need? And to build that trust and to start from there. And you know what? I can say things have improved immensely. And I can just give a little example. Where I live in Lake Oswego, there was a gentleman with a backpack, looked a little down on his luck, had a conversation. He's a veteran. He couldn't afford his rent. It just took not long at all to get him connected with the Veterans Resource Officer to get him on his way. 72 years old. You know, homelessness can happen to anyone when the rents are so high, you're on a fixed income, you can't afford it, but we have improved immensely. I can tell you there are now outreach workers that will go out to where people are and connect with them and build that trust and help develop a plan for their life. How do we be most successful? We have a transitional place, whatever that is, hotel, motel, like you said, the more modular, like tiny home, safe rest villages, maybe a place for camping. I would be supportive of that if it was designated. But we need to provide a whole continuum of supports. And thank goodness we're now getting to a place where we have the resources to do that.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Tony, do we have anybody else online?
Chair Smith, at this time, I do not have any other hands raised.
Great, okay. Well, I believe that is the end of public communication. We will move on. Gary.
Next is County Administrator update. That's me. I always like to share good news of what our staff does and our employees. That's the same thing, isn't it? All right, first, I have summer paving statistics for you from our Department of Transportation and Development. This summer, Clackamas County staff paved more than, or worked on more than 10 miles of roads. Yes, they were paved more than 10 miles of road this summer in Clackamas, Happy Valley, Oak Grove, and Oregon City. The Community Road Fund program, which comes from the county's portion of the vehicle registration fee, has increased the number of local roads that the county can pave. So far, Clackamas County has paved 7 additional areas because of these funds. Next, an employee of our juvenile department, Jennifer McCurdy, received the 2022 Parrot Creek Heart of Service Award. The executive director of Parrot Creek, Simon Fulford, wrote this about Jennifer, our staff. Partnering with the Clackamas County Juvenile Department ensures that we can do the very best for our children and families and to provide them with the most appropriate and relevant support. I have heard many times just how much the Parrot Creek team appreciates Jennifer's support, guidance, and never-ending offer of assistance. Your help allows them to make sure the youth and families we serve feel loved, human, worthy, and important. Thank you for always being there for us. This award is a small token of our appreciation, and I hope is part of many more years of working together, building on the decades of collaboration we already have. So thank you, Simon, for that recognition. Congratulations to Jennifer McCurdy of our Juvenile Department for that recognition. That is my good news today. Thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you, Gary. Was it last week we had an example, I'm not sure if it was staff or you, that of a woman who was homeless with a child. She was taken into a program, became part of the apprenticeship program, and became an equipment operator.
Yes.
Yeah. Can we get a copy of that story? I think I can use that next Monday, that there are successes.
Yes.
Yes, that there are successes, and now she's become self-sufficient. And sometimes the homeless situation happens because of a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
And if a woman is divorced with some kids and no way to make any money, and even if the assets were split 50-50, those assets may not be enough to sustain housing, and she surfs around, couch surfaces at friends and relatives, and after a while, that's exhausted. And this was a situation like that, and I have a huge amount of compassion for those people, and I'm not willing at this point to turn my back on people who really do seek to be out of the current situation. But I think I spoke out of turn here. We are now at Commissioner Communication, and Commissioner Scholl, you're up first.
Thank you. Good morning, Clackamas County. On Tuesday, I was a guest of the Canby Chamber of Commerce at the new Columbia Distribution Center in Canby. It's 500,000 square feet. They push out over 23 million cases each year throughout Oregon and Washington, and each month they drive over 340,000 miles. They have between 110 and 140 employees, depending on the time of year. Now, the Clackamas distribution centers, all combined, are much larger. They drive many more miles than 340,000 a month. Imagine the impact that tolling will have on just these distribution centers. Then you and I will be paying tolls and higher prices for the goods we purchase. Citizens, contact your state rep and your state senator, and I ask business leaders to get together for a unified voice on tolling. Do it now. I personally, in response to Mr. Poole's question, I support a public vote on tolling, and I will sign an initiative petition to require the vote of the people on the tolling issue. On the Gladstone and Oak Lodge library projects, congratulations to the people of Gladstone and Oak Lodge on the money from ARPA approved by the board yesterday for the construction of 2 new, much-needed libraries. I'm looking forward to visiting the Gladstone Library site next week for the demolition celebration of the old library. Also, the residents of Oak Lodge will be putting the final pieces together for a new civic focal point of their community in the new Oak Lodge Library at the Concord School. On short-term rentals, Commissioner Savas and I had another meeting yesterday to discuss ideas on potential regulations for STRs in unincorporated Clackamas County. And we're looking at efficiency, fairness, respect for property owners, and a sensitivity to cost for both the STR owner and the cost to the county to administer STRs. We're moving ahead, but please be patient a while longer. On crime, we need every citizen's help. For emergencies, crimes in progress, medical emergency, fire, live wires down, and severe auto accidents, you know to call 911. But for non-emergency, loud music, crime not in progress, non-injury auto accidents, illegal parking, the number is 503-655-8211. And every citizen can also assist law enforcement in Clackamas County by going to clackamas.us/sheriff website and making an online crime report for any no suspect, no injury crime in unincorporated Clackamas County. We also need every citizen's help to stop illegal dumping in unincorporated Clackamas County. 650-3333 to report illegal dumping on federal, county, and industrial timberlands. Please help us. Also, in the Metro Urban Growth Boundary, it's the RID Patrol at 503-234-3000. One other comment, too, on supportive housing. The Metro Supportive Housing Services measure has yielded some $250 million in taxation in since last year when it started. This is a portion of the total dollars rolling into the region in the form of grants for supportive housing. It's time for us to roll up our sleeves, put the rubber on the road, and get these facilities built. It's time to talk less and act more. On a little bit of humor, Chair Smith, there's only 79 shopping days till Christmas. Don't forget about me. And also,
Will do.
my update on the war on the box elder bugs. I'm happy to report in the last week, there are over 150,000 dead box elder bugs at my house, and I'm still alive and ticking. Thank you, Clackamas County.
Oh, yes, you keep going after those bugs.
Get rid of the bugs.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. Monday evening was the Region 1 Act. Chair Rogers and I'm the vice chair, tried to do a remote model, virtual and live meeting. So we experimented with the technology at the facility in Tualatin. You know, normally we had met at the facility in downtown Portland, but it's been so difficult there because of some local issues, similar to what we were talking about before, but more in the way of crime, that they have moved their offices, and most of the employees that are showing up live are showing up at the Tualatin office currently. There's still some activity going on there, but to the gist, we tried this model, and there's now somewhat of a requirement for who knows how long that public meetings will be held both virtually and both live, and hopefully we can get the same value and experience that promotes public involvement and can participate. We've had some meetings where those that are recorded did not have, you couldn't hear what was happening, so that's not good, and that was the relied upon recording. So that needs some work. We've have meetings, and I've been on the I have been on the other end of that to experience what it's like to be in a virtual meeting that's a public meeting, and the only option to attend that public meeting and have no way to communicate with the people there, and whether I'm an elected official or not, I'm at least the public, but the public doesn't have much of an opportunity. And that even happened yesterday. I won't go into detail. I'll save that for another day. I do want to also just share that the discussion about the tolling, that I have as the representative, I thank my colleagues for giving me the assignment and they're entrusting me with the role of transportation, but this issue with really started out with in 2016 when some key legislators asked the Portland Metro Region transportation officials, such as myself, to come together and say, what does Metro Region want and agree upon for a transportation bill? And we agreed upon 3 projects: the Highway 217 improvements, the bottleneck on the Rose Quarter, and the bottleneck on I-205, including the Abernathy Bridge, a 5.8-mile stretch that we advocated for because we had severe, and still today, severe diversion through our neighborhoods during rush hour and peak periods, causing very dangerous situations. So we worked, and almost every Friday, all the way until May of 2017, we provided that input and came up with this package. Handed it off to the Transportation Committee, and in the last 2 weeks of the 2017 legislative session, the governor basically closed the doors, and in 2 weeks they came up with a deal, apparently. And the deal was they were going to fund the Rose Quarter, and they were going to fund it with gas tax and vehicle registration fees, and they were going to fund Highway 217. But lo and behold, Clackamas County got the short end of the stick, and ours was to be told, and no funding, by the way, for it. There was not any funding to construct it. And that led to the language in the bill that assigned us with the tolling for a study, and which led to HB 3055, which cemented the tolling into the permanent means. And here, voila, here we are today. Did I trust back in 2017 that the legislature would do the right thing and take and fund those projects? Because that's what they told us. We're going to fund something, so tell us what you want. I can't blame ODOT for that. I'm going to blame the decision makers, and that was the legislators that supported HB 2017 and supported HB 3055, frankly. I feel that it was a bait and switch, and Clackamas County got the short end of the stick. I can't blame ODOT for where we are today. I'm not happy with the lack of public awareness on this issue, which I think the state has quite a bit of responsibility for. We were told that this tolling would be one thing one day, and it's shifting. And I know that ODOT staff are being directed to do this. The governor appoints the Oregon Transportation Commission, the legislature, you all vote for your legislators. This is coming from the top. So I don't blame ODOT maybe as much as many other people do, but I do think that they're in a tough position. Do I trust that maybe we would emulate? We talked about it earlier. Look at other models, whether it's homeless, whether it's transport. I don't care what we do in life. Learn from other experiences. This would be the only model in the country that would toll all the lanes on all the interstates. And as the ODOT director stated here just a few weeks ago, this is coming to all of Oregon. Well, do I trust it's going to be done right? Not today. Do I trust that the decision makers, not ODOT, but the decision makers are going to use our dollars wisely when a lot of them are advocating for road diets and no more new lanes and no more new freeways and all these other things? And do I trust that the right economic things that will bring prosperity to people and reduce our family incomes, or not reduce, but reduce our family cost when tolling and all those things will add to the burden of inflation that's adding to every bag of groceries, because those are delivered by trucks, by the way, and they're all going to pay tolls. So I don't trust that the system's going to work. And I don't trust that the decision makers are really taking into account all these factors. There are other models around the country that do work, that I do support, that give people the choice and give people options, and that's what we have asked for. So at this point in time, I too am inclined to support IP4 and sign the petition unless there's a really true about face. But there again, I still think, fundamentally, that the right to vote on something of this magnitude is important, especially the fact that this is not going to be just a one-time toll to pay off a bond to build a project like we have done historically. We're being told this will go on in perpetuity after the debt is paid. Do I trust those dollars to be spent correctly today? I do not. So that is my long-winded explanation. I tell this story almost every day, including last night into the wee hours, talking to people about tolling, and there needs to be a lot of public education about how we can go about it and how we can do it better and more fair. And right now, we're not in that. We're not in the driver's seat, but we at the county and the cities have a responsibility to stand up for our citizens and do whatever it takes to voice our issues. Whether that's in the courtroom or whether that is elsewhere, but we cannot accept the burden of all of the interstate traffic being dumped on our local roads, hurting people, adding local cost, because interstate traffic's being diverted off the freeway because people are being forced to, not just rush hour, but this tolling program will be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's unacceptable. That concludes my comments for today.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner Fisher, you're up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Smith. I feel like I've had a lot of opportunity to communicate today on the homeless issue, but I appreciate Les Poole bringing up the question on tolling. And I think this board has been pretty consistent in our value statement about our opposition to ODOT's tolling scheme. We have absolutely been aligned. We have testified before the legislature, approved Chair Smith's testimony, put in the legislative record that Clackamas County is opposed to tolling and giving the reasons why. And quite frankly, I agree that ODOT is, we've lost trust with ODOT, and I'm very concerned with how the state has been proceeding in continuing, further advancing, tolling Clackamas County first and and having all 3 lanes tolled. It just isn't right, and it would affect our residents disproportionately to the residents around the region. So I just think my whole lens on this, we have public forums, we have listening sessions, and the grandmother in West Lynn, whose doctor is in Oregon City, this is what this all comes down to me. And her comments of, do I need to change my doctor? Because she's on a fixed income. How is she going to manage that? Just the mere thought that the grandmother in West Lynn has to think about changing her doctor, is a concern to me. I think more public engagement is required for this. I'm amazed at how many people aren't aware of what's coming down the pike. Public engagement is critical. I think I supported Bill Kennemer's bill, his efforts last session to have a bill that would have required a public vote on tolling. I think public engagement on tolling is important. I'm really disappointed it's not happening sooner. I think in 2 years that might be too late for us to make a difference. But getting the voters engaged and involved and aware, what better than a public vote and having it on the ballot and having people engage in the conversation, because maybe some good ideas would come out of the conversation. The thing that always comes back with is like, okay, well, if you don't do tolling, then how are you going to pay for things? Well, first of all, why should a federal highway, this I-205 is a federal highway, it doesn't just service Clackamas County. It is not just the region. It's not just the entire state of Oregon, but it is the whole corridor across this country. Why is it that the expansion of a bridge and the expansion of a part of a highway that should have been built correctly in the first place be funded primarily on the residents and businesses of Clackamas County? You know, that's just simply wrong. So let's have a conversation about what is fair, what is appropriate, what is right. I have never been in favor of a sales tax because it is a regressive tax. But I do see that a lot of people come to Oregon from other places, and they use our roads, they use our services, they use our law enforcement, they use all of those things. And you know what? They don't pay anything for a sales tax in Oregon. So what about an idea of every Oregonian resident is exempt from a sales tax, but anybody else might have to pay one? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there as maybe this will provide other conversations, other means of funding. We do need infrastructure. What I was most proud of with Chair Smith going in the testimony on that bill that Commissioner Savas is 3055 is we say, yes, we are in favor of I-205 and expansion, fixing the Abernathy and expanding I-205. It's absolutely critical for our economic vitality and sustainability to move goods throughout the region. We must have that. We are opposed to tolling. We are opposed to tolling. That is what is on the record for Clackamas County. That is what we have all stood for in promoting. Commissioner Savas, appreciate you being the voice for getting Abernathy and I-205 in the list way back when of saying this is really important. Frustrated that that was tremendously at risk when Chair Smith had to give her testimony. You know, we almost lost I-205 working on that expansion and fixing that bridge. But isn't it nice that we go, you know, it's funny, people say to me, because all the work's happening on the Abernathy, they say, oh my gosh, is that the tolls going in right now? It's like, no. That is the expansion. I mean, it's amazing what's happening in our community to make that happen. So I appreciate that we are aligned on this issue of opposing tolling and making sure that we really push hard for the expansion of I-205 and the Abernathy repair, the fix of that bridge. It will create a safer, more vibrant, economically viable Clackamas County.
Thank you. Commissioner Schrader, you're up.
Well, all I'm going to say when it comes to the transportation issue right now, and Les's question, I will ditto Commissioner Savas and Commissioner Fisher. I think that this is one issue on tolling that this board is in entire alignment with. And I think that all of us have been pushing back very hard in all the venues that we have an opportunity to speak in to really talk about the fairness of this and how we're going to manage to keep pushing back as much as we can to rectify that situation. So Les, thank you for that question. I'm going to take a moment to switch gears, however, at this point, because as hoping, Tony, that you could bring something up on our screen that is happening this weekend. And the county and several of our partners, I'm planning on being there today, have organized a community event. It's going to be this Sunday, celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day. It will be from 11 to 3 on Sunday, October 9th, at the ClackCo Community College Environmental Learning Center, one of my favorite places in the county. This is a family-oriented event. It will have music, storytelling, food, a lot of vendors and activities. Libraries are one of the sponsors, and you all know that how I feel about libraries. I think they're one of the best things we do in this county. They will be giving away books. The Grand Ronde Tribe has provided some activity items from their Tribal Youth Education Office. I have a Grand Ronde art and activity book here, and I'm going to ask for another one because I'd like to, actually probably about 3 or 4 more, because I'd like to give them to my grandchildren so they can color and learn a little bit about it. So I'll pass that by. It's pretty interesting to have. It is supposed to be a gorgeous day on Sunday, so I encourage folks in our community to attend. This is an opportunity to learn about the culture and traditions of the tribes who were original stewards of this land that we all now call home. And I particularly want to thank ClackCo Community College and all the sponsors who are supporting this in-person festival. So good weather, good times, beautiful campus. I hope I have an opportunity to see all of you folks there. Now I'd like to make a few comments about, again, one of my, I've said this before, one of my favorite departments, and that is Water and Environmental Services. And I just wanted to give folks a quick overview of what it is that they do. They are essentially the group that really keeps our water clean in the Tri-City area here. On behalf of our ratepayers here in Clackamas County, Water and Environment Services operates and maintains more than 340 miles of sanitary sewers, interceptors, and force mains, 21 wastewater pumping stations, 5 water resource recovery facilities, and the local collection system in the Happy Valley and unincorporated areas within the service area. Each of the treatment facilities holds individual permits, 4 of which are National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permits that allow discharge to surface waters in the state of Oregon. Altogether, West treats 6 billion gallons per year of wastewater and is in compliance with all the terms of the permits. They also do wastewater management facilities. The district owns a limited amount of surface water infrastructure, but they are the operator of the vast majority of surface water infrastructure constructed with transportation systems and residential subdivisions in this area. The facilities, both in the public rights of way and our private property, state and federal water quality regulations require that the public surface water system be adequately inspected, maintained, expanded, and repaired. And we did put on our Water and Environment Services hat today with a project. And if you really want to take a look at the more recent projects, you can go to our doc hub here in clackamascounty.us. You can look up Water and Environment Services, and you can take a look at the SIPs, okay, the Construction Improvement Plan process, where it is in the process, what they have been doing, and what the cost, the total cost of what a number of these projects are. I particularly like them because they also do a lot of stream restoration and water quality restoration. And at one point, as the liaison, I had an opportunity to go out with their limnologist, their limnology entomologist who studies the health of these streams by looking at the species of insects that are water-based insects. Oftentimes, they are indicators of the general health of the stream system, so it's fascinating. Some of the things WES also does, they're participating employer with a PGE Project Zero It's a social impact program which helps young adults connect to green jobs through a 6-month paid internship. The interns recently toured the Tri-City Resource Facility and looked at potential career pathways in water safety, and how to keep our water clean. And I will be a little more, I think, up to speed, in that I will be attempting to give regular reports to my commissioners to let them know what is happening. There was a virtual town hall starting at 1:30 October 3rd, so I don't know if anyone was able to make that. I know that I wasn't. But when these kinds of things come up, I'm going to encourage colleagues that you get a chance to go to them and visit WES's educational web pages that also include best management practices for landscapers to help protect our waterways and environment. WES is a member of the Oregon Association of Clean Water Agencies, and they are the key piece that we work with to enhance Oregon's water quality. So I hope that is helping folks get a little bit more information on that. I'm really pleased to be working with those folks, and enjoy every minute of time I have going out in the field with them when I have an opportunity. Another issue that came up that I was pleased to find, Cindy Moore, who is working right now as our person who's doing economic development. Basically, we have just found out that there is House Bill 2345. It's a summary. I have a summary of the bill, and it looks as if we're going to have a number of our districts in our area have an opportunity to apply for economic development grants, to assist rural jurisdictions to learn about, apply for, and manage grants and other funding opportunities to support workforce, infrastructure, economic development, and community development. If this requires Oregon Business Department development to communicate the program policy and purposes, I'm going to take a special interest in this because I would like to see the city of Barlow, Canby School District, Colton, Estacada School District, the Malala River School District, Oregon Trail School District, Malino, Boring, so on and so forth, have an opportunity to get some of these rural economic development dollars. Finally, I'll be brief about housing, but I just wanted to remind folks that with all the outreach that public and government relationships have done, that there will be a report. It looks as if, according to the information I have here, it should be out, I think, the first week in November. So all that feedback that we talked about for housing should be codified, and I imagine will be available on our webpage for that. And my take on this is this. I've worked very closely with Pat Farr of Lane County. They have a wonderful program. That was the model we used for our Veterans Village. They have a wonderful community of care program that not only includes advocates, but also members of the business community, and they have done a phenomenal job getting those services to the folks who really need it. So they're kind of my go-to gold star standard of how we can continue to do things here in Clackamas County. And one of the things we did well with the Veterans Village is this. Look, it's an intentional community. And what that means is you're just not there on your own. You're there with people who can help you, who can get the wraparound services, who can get you counseling, who could get you information about jobs, who can do all those other kinds of things that really builds a community. And more importantly than anything else, I think, it gives people space to heal. It gives people space not to always be in survival mode, because some of those behaviors that we become so fearful of, I think, when people are surviving on a daily basis, is something that I think that if we give people a safe, solid spot where they don't have to worry every day about just staying alive and not being cold and not having enough to eat and so on and so forth. It makes a huge difference for them to get them on their feet and move them from that transitional housing into more housing that is more permanent for them and get them back on their feet. So thank you, colleagues. That's my news.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Regarding the question, first of all, I want to thank the citizens for coming forward. Voicing your concerns to this board is very helpful. Yes, I do support a vote on tolling. As a matter of fact, I already signed a petition, but I suspect that petition was so early on that was a referral to the Secretary of State asking for ballot language, and now there's a new one out. So I want to say something on the petitions. It's confusing. You know, who's on first? There's different tolling groups with different acronyms out there. And frankly, if this effort is going to be successful, you're going to really have to ramp it up and go. I'm also concerned that if the vote comes out 2 years from now, the decision that say the state of Oregon, that you're successful in that, tolls have already been implemented. They're already collecting the money and spending it. And I'm concerned that the decision on this will be left to the constitutional lawyers in court at the Supreme Court. So there is the situation where many people don't know what's going on. It seems like I hear about it every day because of my job, and the folks who are the activists in this are concerned about it on a daily basis. But it's sad it's going to be left to the constitutional lawyers, and I'm concerned that that will happen. We have very good discussions on the homeless situation and all the work we're doing. Seeing no further business before this Board of County Commissioners, we are adjourned.